ready to go into the Game of Thrones studio tour? Yes, we're coming now.
So welcome along with us on this Game of Thrones tour, which we took in February 2022, about a week after it opened. The footage does get better, folks, when we get in. There's a green screen opportunity just outside the entrance if you should like to use it, and then it's straight in. So as you enter the tour, the first thing you're going to come across here is the Free Folk, or the Wildlings, and we have all the original costumes here used. Now these are folk that live north of the wall in rival clans, and it says here that the coats can weigh as much as 15 pounds. They have bones and oysters and other things adorning them. So this imposing guy is One-Weg Wonder-One, who is a giant of the Free Folk, and he in the books was 14 foot tall. Okay, this is a nice little scene set up with Bran Stark, who is eerily realistic. Hodor, and we have some Children of the Forest to the side there. Now there will be spoilers if you do attend this tour as to some of the storyline. Okay, so this area, folks, I just filmed to give you an idea of the general layout and space of the place. This area is the art department, and you can actually, much to my son's excitement, design your own shield here. You can do your own coat of arms, the colours, the shape, the animal, and you get to pick 3 individual strengths that you want to represent. So I'll just let you have a little look here at what my son's doing. While you're watching there, just to make you aware, I did have to remove any ambient sound in the background. There is a lot of music playing as you go around, theme music, which would instantly obviously get copyrighted on YouTube, so I've had to voice over and remove that for you guys. So next, onto the concept of the show itself. This area is very much about the setup of Game of Thrones. We have plans, we have models of different buildings. Now there is this interactive section at the front with 3 screens, and unfortunately none of them were actually working. I did try all 3, I did try numerous times, but to no avail, unfortunately. So here we have all the different buildings that you will recognise from the shows, all the models, the scale models that they did for them. That's the Red Keep there. So it's really interesting to see the concept design before the actual real sets were built. I just did a pan of this wall to show you the beautiful artwork. Now that one in particular was my favourite. You've got a close-up of there, but we have some amazingly beautiful artwork all the way down this wall that you can have a closer look at if you go on the tour. Okay, so onto another awesome scene here. The lighting is amazing. This is obviously the mess hall from Castle Black. We can see all the Night's Watch there standing in their uniforms. This was actually used for any scenes of dining or the meetings between the men. Alongside, we have a very famous scene there. I'm not going to go into detail. I'm sure we recognise that one. So this is a scene I sneakily put my camera through the bars of the prison cell for. These are the prison cells from Eastwatch Castle, where Jon Snow famously recruited prisoners for an expedition north of the wall to capture a white. So the next scene we see is Bran Stark's chamber, where he lay in a coma famously for several weeks after his fall from a tower at Winterfell. He was looked after here by Old Nan, and his direwolf Summer lay at the end of his bed, keeping guard day and night. So the next room was mainly props from the show. Obviously we see the map here with the little props on top. These were all taken from one of the ships that was used in Game of Thrones. The actual wreckage of that ship is outside the studio, but due to be removed quite soon. It's not there for anyone to see, unfortunately. You can see there on the screen the ship that it was taken from. And obviously here, hopefully you may be able to read those little cards there that I filmed for you, and we have some books from the show. Onto some more interesting props with the funeral stones there that were used in Tywin Lannister's eyes. Again, you've the little cards there to read. There's way too much for me to voice over for you. The famous dragon eggs there in the background. We even have a little dragon, a little baby dragon skull there for you. onto one of my favourite sections of the tour, the Winterfell Crypt, where we can see obviously here Jon Snow. He stands alongside Sansa and Arya Stark. These were actually made from clay from artist renderings, and you can actually get up close and touch these and have your photos taken. There's no ropes or cords of any description to keep you back from these ones. And we have Sean Bean. How do? My husband's a Yorkshireman, very happy to see Sean Bean. This obviously Ned Stark in the show, so this shows you some of the other characters in the crypts that are on show on the tour. I'm sure you'll recognise them all there. They're all very realistic to character. So being in this next room, this next set, is just awe-inspiring. Now obviously this is the Great Hall. You'll recognise a lot of the outfits and characters as we get closer to the top. I'm speaking to a member of staff. They actually told us that this is the only set in exactly the same place it was when the crew actually filmed, so you'll be walking in the same place as your favourite characters, as Tyrion, as Jon Snow. The crew, when they filmed, actually always had to have one wall missing to fit in the filming equipment, so the people going on this tour see this room more complete than the actual actors themselves did. I just did a pan of the ceiling there. It doesn't show up as well on camera, unfortunately, but the lighting was just beautiful in this room. So this next area, as you can see how vast it is all about outfits, is all about props in the show. You can see the beautiful dresses there from Sansa, from Arya, the characters there in the background. What strikes you when you see them is how tiny they actually all are up close. Now, these are some interactive screens that my son absolutely loved. That's me trying to film myself there. You actually stand in front of those screens and it basically puts the outfits on you. That's my son as a knight. He could not be pulled away from these screens. He loved them. They're really fun for kids. Obviously my child's never seen Game of Thrones, but he really enjoyed the interactivity of these. You can see it put the trousers on, it will put the top on in a second, and he'll get a helmet on as well on top. And there are different screens all the way through the tour where kids or adults can do this. So this set you will recognise as the Dragonstone throne room. The actual throne there actually took 6 weeks to build. It's plaster over a timber frame. And the floor is actually incorporating hexagonal basalt formations from the Giant's Causeway in the north of Ireland. So here we have another absolutely beautiful setting. You should recognise this as the Dragonstone Map Room. There's obviously Tyrion's outfit there, my favourite. I love that they've put a little scar on the dummy as well. This obviously is the painted table in Dragonstone where Stannis and Daenerys planned their attacks in King's Landing. The attention to detail in this room is just gorgeous. The outfits, the table, the background, everything is just stunning. So we're still in the original room we came in with the interactive screens and the dresses, and in the centre of this room obviously you can see a lot of the very famous outfits. My son is on his way, he cannot help run in front of me when I'm videoing. And there he goes. This one, now I think this is actually King Joffrey's outfit, is my favourite. For one of the worst characters, we get one of the nicest outfits. Just do another pan of those gorgeous dresses. You can kind of see, I'm filming to show you how unbusy it was, how much of a chance we had to look around and film. Again, those tiny little dresses, but up close they are just exquisite. They are beautiful in their detail if you just get right up close and give them a good look. Okay, so again we're in the same room in a couple of glass cabinets. We have a lot of props here, a lot of mostly jewellery. Hopefully you can read those little cards there, you can see what we're looking at. But these again are exquisite when you get up close. These obviously are the same ones worn and set by the actors, they're not replicas. It is clear when you get up close that they're not made by like heavy metal like you would imagine. They all do look quite lightweight to wear for the most part until we get on to one that we'll see in the next case. Apologies for the glare on these folks, there were quite strong lights above and it was impossible to get an angle on these for you to read them. But I'm sure you can appreciate that the jewellery here is beautiful, especially that lovely rose piece at the front. So onto a second cabinet, and this was the item that to me looked really uncomfortable to wear. Alongside that we also have Khal Drogo's belt, which I mention because there is no real mention during the tour about the Dothraki. We don't have really anything of them, or the Unsullied for that matter. We have spears, but I think that's pretty much as close as we get. There's Jaime Lannister's hand, which I was quite surprised to see how intricate and carved that actually was, or engraved. Again, some more jewellery from the show. The pieces are just exquisite up close. So that's the Sons of Harpy mask. Apologies, I cannot remember whose belt that actually is. Now we move on after that to some wrist guards, which are actually embossed with a snake skin pattern. They actually belong to Obara Sands, and they're similar to those her father wore. And one of my favourite pieces, Daenerys Targaryen's necklace, obviously a symbol of House Targaryen being the dragon. So we're about to move on to look at some impressive dragon skulls, but just before we do, to give you a pan of the room that we've just come through, I've showed you all of the individual pieces, again to give you an idea of size, and we move over to that awesome dragon. So next, obviously, on to Valerian the Black Dread, who was the greatest of the dragons and the largest. He actually measures 30 foot by 11 foot by 16 foot and was actually carved from polystyrene blocks, and it took 6 weeks to do this. Then plasterers and painters went to work, finally shipping the finished skull in pieces to Spain for filming. And yes, my son is still over at these interactive screens. He literally could not get enough of them. Next, we moved on to some behind the scenes with regards to the costume design in the costume department. It was really interesting to read and to watch. There is a TV there giving you some information about how they made the actual armour, the suits, the dresses, and really interestingly how they actually edged them. There was a lot of process going into making them look as dirty and distressed as they actually did. So it's really nice to get like a look at the background of how everything's put together. The next area is all about the special effects and how they go about recreating them. You can see the green-headed dragon there at the front. It goes into detail about pyrotechnics. We have a section there with the little baby dragons you can see in the cages, which are super cute. And again, some more interactive screens. Where do you think you'll find my son? There he is. So this actually shows you the process of making someone into one of these walkers or whatever we're looking at. So the different layers that they put on to achieve this look. So we see like a skeleton, then there's like a mesh, and finally you get the completed look. You can actually record these also and then put yourself in a little scene in the background, which is quite good fun. Okay, this is the little section I was talking about with regards to special effects. We have the destroyed door there, we have damaged armour. They have some like little bits of writing about the pyrotechnics and how they do that. You can maybe have a read there. And just different damaged pieces of equipment that have been used on the show. We even have a horse's leg above there, another damaged door. And there always is a screen running alongside for you to give you an idea what you're looking at and the stunts that actually they come from, which is really interesting. So I'm not entirely sure where that horse's leg comes into play. So if you're a fan of Game of Thrones, which I would assume you are if you're watching this, you will know how much prosthetics come into play. We have the walkers, we have different stages of the walkers. Prosthetics is a massive part of the show, and this entire section here, again, we have the TV running in the background with what you're looking at. You can see Arya Stark, what looks like a death mask of her there. It's probably taken from the Hall of Faces. So it's really interesting to see the build-up that we have of all the different walkers to get the finished look. I'm not entirely sure what that really weird dog's head is about. We have an actor there in the background photographs, some of the different latexes and paints they use. And there's a really creepy, eerie head on top of the shelf there on the end, which is ridiculously lifelike. Again, we're looking at some little prosthetics that are added to the actors, obviously for ease and for quickness when they have to wear them regularly, and these look like white walkers. You come across these quite by surprise in a little corridor. Obviously we have Cersei Lannister there, and I cannot stress enough to you how realistic this is. It looks like a real person in that casket. As I say, they're in a little corridor, and beside Cersei we have Jaime Lannister. Again, there's his gold hand, just as realistic as Cersei. It is actually quite creepy how real these models actually look, and they're hidden away. I had to be really irreverent and have my photograph taken in the middle, but there you are. And onto the Hall of Faces. You can actually take your photograph on little screens. That's my son Isaac's face there. And you can then superimpose it onto the Hall of Faces. Mine there at the bottom. It has to be done. You can pull many stupid expressions, as I can assure you my husband and son did. So this next room is clearly the weapons room, and we have weapons from all your favourite Stark characters, the main characters in the show here. I'm not going to attempt to name all these weapons for fear of making massive mistakes. Obviously we have Needle, which is Arya's weapon, and the little dagger there, which came in very useful, as we well know. I'm sure as fans of the show you recognise a lot of these pieces. These are centered around the outside, and in the middle, as you can see, there is this really impressive weapon, which is also directly from the show itself. This is immense. You can see from the people walking around there just how large this is as a centerpiece. And on the other wall opposite, you also have weapons from other main characters in the show. Now, one of my favourites is obviously Joffrey's crossbow, but we know what happens with this, and thankfully we do have the right person in the photograph behind it, and not Joffrey. We have Ygritte there, as we know, married to Jon Snow in real life. The two actor and actress are actually married, and there we have them side by side with the weapons that they wield in the show. So really impressive stuff, and these are the original weapons, folks, that would have been used on set. The next room we move through to has got more incidental weapons. You can see how many spears there. You can imagine how many spears they needed in filming of Game of Thrones. Now, we have some information there on the making of the weapons themselves, how they're put together, which again, as I say, we have the TV. It's really interesting to actually watch. We can see the weapons in action there on the TV behind. So as that said, it's the armourer's workbench. And you can see there's 3 bows. There is actually interactive screens behind them. I do realise it's a bit dark in the footage there. So that is an interactive thing to do, which wasn't working when we were there, unfortunately. And more incidental shields here. There's one of the flayed man, which is one that's really recognisable. So lots of interesting props and weaponry. And Game of Thrones would not be Game of Thrones without the awesome score. This section actually shows you details as to how the score was put together, the instruments used. We can see a computer program running there in the background, putting the music together in layers. Again, really interesting, especially if you've got an interest in music. So these next sets were actually set inside the Red Keep, and they would actually change the interiors to suit the owners. This one is currently dressed as Tommen Baratheon's chamber, and the other one as Cersei Lannister's, and they basically changed as they needed to. This is another jaw-dropping set. It's obviously the map of Westeros belonging to Cersei. Now this actually was hand-painted by 2 painters, and it took 10 weeks to complete. It was actually painted in place in the studios themselves, and is broke up into individual tiles, which you can just about see there. That's my husband and son just doing a bit of recording, taking some photographs, but this is just a stunning set. So this is the Small Council set. Small Council was at the Red Keep in King's Landing, and it's basically the council body which advises the King of the 6 Kingdoms and basically carries out policy at his command, and it would have representatives for all 7 kingdoms within it. So we're getting close to the end, folks. I think that's the Mountain's armour there at the end of the corridor. My son is just about to see the end, and he's rather impressed. We are about to go into the throne room, guys. But just let's have a little look outside before we go in. So we have the Mountain, as far as I'm aware's armour there, and an array of different helmets and headwear that I'm sure you will recognise from different characters from the show. So the last thing we actually see before we enter the final throne room is from House Tyrell. Obviously we see here Lady Olenna. She's known for being very sharp-witted. She's the grandmother of Loras and Marjorie, who we see a lot in the show. There are some really nice shirts in the gift shop with the small Tyrell logo, as with other smaller houses. We're almost there, folks, and another creepy corpse in a glass case. These are just so realistic, guys. You would just swear you're looking at a real person when you look at these. The last little scene that we have here is obviously of some of the Lannisters' costumes, which have to be seen to be believed up close. That's Cersei's there at the front. The workmanship in these is just exquisite, especially the dresses. The actual detailing that's gone into, like the flowers and the different folds of material, is incredible. So the final room, folks, this is the throne room. It's presented as a destroyed throne room. You can see in the background possibly there are screens behind there. We actually have projections of silhouettes of dragons that actually fly in the background when you're in the room. There is awesome music, there are fantastic sound effects. Obviously I can't include these for fear of copyright. That's me in the middle just soaking it all in. We were so lucky that it was not busy at all. That's some close-ups of the wreckage there of the destroyed room. We can see there Jon Snow and Daenerys at the front, and just a few people walking about. Unfortunately, I couldn't catch the dragons in the projection. They just were not playing ball with me today. But there we go. There we have the throne itself. The real throne used on the set, sat on by all the actors involved. And finally, when you leave the tour, you enter into a massive gift shop. Now, this shop has all descriptions of items available. A lot of it's separated into the various houses. There are t-shirts, hoodies, long sleeve baseball shirts, baseball caps, beanie hats, key rings, coasters, little pin badges, anything you can think of, folks. The key rings are about £5. The long sleeve baseball hoodies are £27. Hoodies are a bit expensive at £45, but they are just stunning. They are beautiful hoodies, folks. They do sell some more expensive items. There are some silk scarves there at £75. There are these t-shirts which I really liked. They are more subtle with little emblems, logos of the houses on. There's House Tyrell there. Houses that are perhaps not the more prominent in the show, which I thought was a really nice touch. Different styles of shirts, so you have the more sort of like if you want something really obvious, if you want something that you're going to see from a distance, or if you want something that little bit more subtle. All the different houses on beanies there, on baseball caps, on socks. They have some little books with some information about the show in. And there in the background, the black hoodie with the silver houses was my favourite. And there you have it, folks. Just a little bit at the end for information for people interested in attending. We're in the lobby here as we're leaving. There on the left you can see is a reception, which also is a cloakroom, and you can leave bags there. There are lockers for any valuables if you wish to leave them. The cloaks can be left free of charge. As you leave, you will note that there is actually no parking on set at Game of Thrones. There's a shuttle bus which you need to take that takes you right outside the studio. We have been told it's very close by and very convenient. You can see it there behind me. There is very limited parking on site for disabled badge holders if you book in advance. So we have just finished the Game of Thrones tour. What time is it? It's 4:30, so we've been in there 3.5 hours. We had lunch there. The food's really, really nice. The staff are all really friendly, really nice, really knowledgeable. Sets are awesome. A lot of the stuff, costumes and weapons and stuff we'd seen before on the last Game of Thrones thing we did, but to actually be in the throne room was probably the best part. It just looked awesome. We didn't do the Iron Throne photographs because you have to pay to like get them, and we've got pictures of us on the Iron Throne before, so it seemed a bit like why pay for more. So yeah, but it was a really good day. I'd really recommend it. The food was not ridiculously expensive. The three of us had meals and dessert for, I think it was about £55 all in. Yeah. With drinks, desserts. Price of a decent pub. Yeah, so cheap for somewhere like this. The tickets were, I think, about £40 each, £39.95 I think for, to get in. If you are a fan of the show, it's a must do, definitely.
It's one of those things I think if you've done once, you don't need to do again.
But you can spend as long as you want.
You can. You're not rushed. You're not like people up the backside. Thankfully, it's not as busy as it's going to get. So there weren't that many people when we went in, so we had a good chance to take pictures and video and not have people in front of us. All in all, a really positive experience, and I would highly recommend. We've got about an hour and 20-minute drive ahead of us, so yeah, let's get going. But yeah, thumbs up for the Game of Thrones tour.